Time flies, spring goes and autumn comes, and 3 years have passed in a blink of an eye. Time, unknowingly, came to sea circle calendar 1517, which is also the 19th year after the advent of the era of great pirates. Looking back on the past 3 years, many major events still occurred in the world. Sea circle calendar 1514, the Holy Land of Marie Joyce held the World Summit every 4 years. At this meeting, the revolutionaries began to be known by the entire alliance country in a real sense. As more and more countries' politics were overthrown, the kings felt uneasy about the revolutionary army. At the same time, Drago, the leader of the revolutionaries, began to be defined as the most evil criminal in the world. Sea circle calendar 1515, red hair pirates, who have been dormant for many years, reappeared in the Sea of New World. At the same time, because of the strength of its powerful members and the charisma of red-haired shanks, more and more pirates who were forced to come to New World joined. Red hair pirates gradually, it has the size of a large fleet. When the news came out, the entire New World was immediately shaken. Many forces couldn't help casting their gazes. They were startled and suspicious, and couldn't help guessing the purpose of this move. Establishing a large fleet, recruiting pirates, and further expanding the force. This series of actions, coupled with the amazing record of defeating several large pirates recently, makes people have to doubt that the current red-haired. Do you already have plans and ambitions to establish your own territory in New World? As time passed, the red hair pirates began to gain the title of New Emperor in the New World ruled by the 3 emperors. It seemed that the New World was going to return to the rule of the 4 emperors. For a while, the red hair pirates and their fleet were directly noticed by the pirates and the marines. Sea circle calendar 1516, after a year, after the Grand Line has stabilized relatively, it is not only the actual use of conscription power in New World, but also the purpose of picking weak persimmons. In addition to the 2 admirals who sit in naval headquarters and Marie Joyce, the remaining Crusade warships headed by 2 admirals, Kizaru and Green Bull, began to attack the red-haired fleet of New World. From Marines' participation in the crusade against red hair, along the way in New World, many pirates are like a mouse seeing a cat, just seeing it from a distance and running away at full speed. Marines' march to the New World of Pirate Paradise is both rare and meaningful. Naturally, it has received a lot of attention. Under the eyes of countless people, Marine and the red-haired Grand Fleet were together. Most people thought it would be a crushing victory for Marine, but the result surprised many people. The battle lasted for a full week. In the end, due to the prolonged stalemate of Marine and the influence of supplies and terrain, Marine voluntarily withdrew from New World as a result of the battle. The 2 most powerful battle forces were dispatched, but the red-haired fleet, the weakest of the current New World powers, was not gnawed down. For a while, it took several years of achievements in catching pirates to downplay the reputation of Marine, which was affected by the Zephyr incident, suffered another major blow. Until the origin of the World Government Station explained that New World, as a big pirate territory, is not conducive to Marine's attack as an excuse, and at the same time showed the stable achievements of the 4 seas in the first half of the Grand Line, temporarily downplaying this rumor. With Marine's defeat, even though the Grand Fleet also suffered heavy damage that was nearly wiped out, the performance of the red hair pirates on the battlefield immediately made many newspapers promote it as the 4th top force in New World. The red-haired Shanks, who displayed the powerful conqueror's haki, also became the 4th Sea Emperor respected by the newspapers. Those pirates who coveted his title of New Emperor. It seems that because of strength, the blessing of conqueror's haki, and the influence of personality charm, after the defeat, more than half of the people were convinced and chose to follow and join the red-haired fleet. In less than half a year, Red Hair Pirates has completely secured its position as the 4th Emperor of the Sea. Although it has less power, it is better than having more elites. As a result, New World seems to have returned to the situation where the 4 emperors ruled. It's just that it's not like a few years ago when the 4 emperors were fighting against each other. Everyone knows that New World is now a situation where one supersedes the top 3. Flying Kingdom's strong record along the way, currently no one dares to challenge it. And now, the gear near the end is also starting to rotate as Moda expected. Flying Kingdom, on the royal training ground. Come on, Kuina, I will definitely beat you this time. With strong confidence, Zoro shouted to another independent and beautiful woman on the field. Hearing this, Kuina slowly pulled out the Hedai character in his hand, and looked at Zoro with a serious and cold gaze. This time, I will still maintain the winning streak. Watching the other party make a parrying movement, Zoro's eyes were fiery at this moment, and at the same time he became fully concentrated. All his thoughts were concentrated in the feeling of the sword. He clenched the double swords in his hand, and the other blade in his mouth was doing well ready to go. All of a sudden, Zoro's feet moved continuously, and he shot up quickly. With a distance of tens of meters, he came to Kuina in an instant, and he was attacked by a fierce Onizan attack. Kuina immediately held the sword to block, and the blade of He Dao Yuan slammed into the center of the three swords. The instant impact of strength suddenly set off a gust of wind around. Looking at Kuina, who didn't move at all, and feeling the sharp sword power coming from the three hilts, Zoro couldn't help but praise in his heart, the opponent's sword power has become much stronger. Immediately afterwards, the strength of hard training exploded suddenly, and with a bang, the stagnant attack was broken, and the impact force of each feedback made the two retreat at the same time. Immediately afterwards, each of them looked at each other, reaching a tacit understanding almost instantly. They all launched, dodged forward, swung their weapons, and attacked each other again. This time, their speed was several times faster than before, and they had obviously begun to use their real skills, and the blade in their hands was gradually covered by a dark and rich luster. Whizzing. The sound of breaking wind sounded almost in no particular order. Both of them are sword lords, under the control of sword power. Every attack they make against each other can set off a thrilling, violent impact. It is full of interlacing under the shadow of swords, lights and swords, which is so fast that it is dazzling. When, the sound of fierce collisions of weapons continued to be heard continuously, like a violent storm. I can do it. This time I will definitely win. Just when they fought again and again, and they were always at a disadvantage, the emotions in Zoro's heart also rose, and at the same time, the strength he wielded became more and more rapid. You're improving really fast, Zoro, especially after becoming a swordsman. Blocking the tiger-like slash with his sword again, Kuina said while looking at Zoro on the opposite side. But this time, it's still me who wins. As soon as the words fell, Kuina's eyes suddenly flashed light, and the pupils even changed into double pupils. Seeing this, Zoro became even more nervous. After fighting so many times, he certainly knew Kuina's killer ability. That is the same talent as Uncle Mihawk's Hawkeye, even more mysterious and difficult to deal with. Being able to gain insight into everything is the ability to easily catch all weaknesses and deficiencies.
The you now are still the same as before, full of flaws.
Call. There was a sound of piercing through the air, and Ghost Slash, which had been gradually gaining momentum before, was suddenly stopped by a sword.
This is where your move is weakest. The momentum of the sword slammed into the next attack, and the driver of the three-sword Lu Guizhen was directly defeated.
Seeing that the opponent immediately stepped forward, Zoro hurriedly backed away to open his position, and at the same time, a slash wave of a tornado hit him. However, Kuina's speed did not slow down, and he did not force back at all. Under his insight, he seized the flaw and swung his sword lightly, easily breaking through the three-sword-style tornado. Knock out the knife. Then, this time I still win. Put the words of He Dao back into the scabbard, Kuina said. Hateful. Zoro smashed his hands to the ground unwillingly, and then looked at Kuina with awe-inspiring fighting spirit. Next time I will definitely defeat you. Before Kuina could reply, the general's retainers who were watching the battle were already discussing it. I thought it could be different, but I still lost easily. Here it goes again, the classic speech of the loser. I can hear this sentence every month. I thought Zoro would have a chance this time, but it's Kuina who is the best. It's worth 1,000 defeats. This guy won't be crying secretly under the covers again tonight. Huh? Seriously, it's so big, will Zoro still cry? Hearing these ridicules and even smearing voices, Zoro looked at Nami and others outside the arena, his face flushed with excitement, and he didn't care about continuing to challenge Kuina. He turned his head and shouted angrily, "You guys, what nonsense? When did I lose 1,000 times? Only a few hundred times." At the same time, he looked at Luo, who was crying with a ghost in his arms. "And you, a bastard with 3 characters, you cry in bed when you lose to me. I lost to you." Luo Danran's state of mind was suddenly broken by Zoro, who was both an opponent and a buddy. "It's as if I've always been a loser like you, and that's a mixed victory between us." In the space where the op fruit unfolded, Luo directly swapped with a stone in front of Zoro, holding a ghost and crying, and then stepped forward to chop it off. However, when the opponent unfolded the fruit ability, he had expected it, and when the knowledge color and armed color were deployed again, Zoro also slashed forward angrily. "Don't look, Shirahoshi. Will be affected by the idiot character." Nami immediately left with Shirahoshi, who was no less than Maria. Big brother doesn't seem to deny crying. Lami grasped a certain message. Xiao Pei. This is a battle between men, hurry up and don't lose my face. Byrnndi looked at the battle between the two, and glanced at the stealing man at the end of Maeda who had been stuck in the competition for 3 years. Zhou Wan. Although with this record he was still unable to enter the ranks of close retainers, but because of the privilege of being an older sister, Peggy Wan was still pulled into such a group. At this moment, when she suddenly heard her elder sister's speech, Peggy Wan couldn't help but feel ashamed. This is obviously not a man's fight. And I am not the opponent of these two seniors, so if I rashly insert it, I will only get beaten. That side. Little Pei. Byrnndi took a half step back in surprise, and then suddenly burst into anger. You are so cowardly. Sure enough, I have not been by your side for several years, and my masculinity has dropped a lot. No, I have to get back the education I have lacked in the past few years. The violent Byrnndi pressed against Peggy Wan, stretched out her hands fiercely and pinched her younger brother's neck, and began to shake with dissatisfaction. Seeing the siblings making a fuss, the rest of them had an idea in their hearts. Sure enough, the younger brother who is not stronger than his sister can only be the one being bullied, not to mention that Run still has a bad habit of teasing his younger brother. It's really lively. Shi looked at this moment with a smile. After having fun with Moda, this is her second favorite family atmosphere at present. Looking at the noisy situation, I seem to remember that it was like this when I was a child, and at the same time, I have to sigh with emotion at the passing of time. Nami, who was just a baby at that time, is now a beautiful girl in her cardamom age. Looking at the daughter quietly playing beside Moda, this kind of thought became more intense. Hyori, who was only a child at that time, has also grown into an adult, and is even more bright and charming, gentle and charming. Even her image as a princess of the Flying Kingdom can be pursued by many young heroes. It's just that Hyori refuses to talk to him, and the only man he gets close to is Moda's retainer who. Thinking of this, Shi became a little worried, because compared to the friendship with Luo, Zoro, Lafitte and others, Rizong is closer to Moda. Although she doesn't want to think in certain directions, but Moda's charm power, his lifestyle that makes people love and ruthless, and even Gion, who once made her think that there is no chance, are all failures. In the hands of Moda, Shi's ideas inevitably expanded. Moda doesn't know the general sense of time of his manager and the escape of ideas that are difficult to describe. At this moment, he was reading the latest newspaper from Robin. Has it appeared? Immediately afterwards, as if he had noticed something, he couldn't help but blurt it out. Hancock and Yamato next to him immediately moved over, and put their curious eyes on the information Moda had seen. Immediately afterwards, Maria, who was tall enough to be seen behind her, couldn't help but magnify and bold the font to use as a shocking topic. Perhaps this is the turn of the times. Just as the One Piece King Roger was publicly executed in East Blue Rock Town, and his final words caused chaos in the world and opened the prelude to the era of great pirates. In the 19th year of the Great Pirate Era, Ace, the son of One Piece, who will shock the world with this bloodline, also entered the Grand Line in 1517 of the Sea Circle calendar. Shu Shi has the blood of the Pirate King, and has a natural luck on the road of pirates. Starting from the weakest East Blue's pirate career, in less than a month, the Spade Pirates were formed, and after that, they got the top Logia fruit in the prison Mera Mera fruit. Since then, the Spades Pirates have quickly broken into the Grand Line like a sudden force, and have become the #1 supernova among the pirates of the Four Seas this year. Garp, who saw the news for the first time, gritted his teeth angrily. This guy is actually going to be a pirate. In just a few months, the limelight was in full swing, coupled with the ability of the top Logia, the Spades Pirates and the captain, Fire Fist, Ace began to attract attention on the sea. With a series of attention, Ace, who also won the title of the strongest newcomer, lived up to expectations. Not only broke through the heavy siege of Marine in the conscription era, but also achieved such a heavyweight event as defeating Shichibukai. Black Peach Pirates clashes with swamp villain Stella in Shichibukai. The final result was that Fire Fist Ace defeated Stella, who had Marsh Fruit, with Mera Mera Fruit, and a series of scandals under his rule broke out, which was spread by newspapers and became famous all over the world. Naval Headquarters, Malindo. Squeak. The door of Garp's office was pushed open from the outside. Garp. An angry shout came from the door. Garp, who was holding a large basket of senbei at his desk, slowly turned his head away. Not surprisingly, the one standing in front of him at this moment is none other than Marshal Marine, Buddha Sengoku himself. Just watching the other party walk in from the outside with an angry look on his face, Garp couldn't help jumping in his heart, secretly thinking that he was found stealing his senbei before. Sengoku's face darkened, and he slapped the stack of documents in his hand on the table. Look what happened to your grandson. Haha, is that guy Ace again? After hearing what Sengoku said, instead of showing a serious expression, Garp laughed out loud. You're so embarrassed to laugh. That's your grandson. Such a good young man. How did he become a pirate? How did you educate him? Sengoku said with distress and dissatisfaction. After learning that the pirate, Fire Fist, Ace, who has received much attention recently, is the grandson of such an old friend in private, he went straight to him and lectured him for a long time. Not only because the other party became a pirate, but also the things behind it are far-reaching. The grandson of the hero Marine actually became a pirate, which can have a big impact on justice under the influence of someone with a heart. It's not you. Let me stay in the headquarters every day, and don't let me have a little more vacation. How can I find time to educate my grandson? Garp said without caring, holding his nose and looking like an old man. And when it came to this, Sengoku got angry for a while, and couldn't say anything more, so he could only let Garp look at the newspaper. And Garp's adjutant Bogart, who was outside the door, was expressionless, and he was used to the voice in it. Garp reached out to pick up the newspaper, paying attention to what happened to Ace, and then couldn't help laughing again. Ace, this guy, actually defeated that guy Stella. He really deserves to be the grandson of this old man. Ha 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 ha. Garp. The old man didn't ask you to express such emotions. Immediately afterwards, he sighed again, and said in a deep voice, don't play dumb. You know the seriousness of the problem, right? This is 7 warlords of the sea specially allowed by the world government. Although it is the weakest corner of the 3 major sea structures today, the 7 warlords of the sea, which can be specially selected by the world government, also symbolizes part of the face. It would be understandable to be defeated by a New World veteran pirate, more like Kaido, but being defeated by a newcomer who was born less than half a year ago would make the world government's selection full of problems. Especially after being defeated, the deeds of Madara were also exposed in the news. Even if you say that. Garp curled his lips and said, the world government will not handle things well. Indeed, almost at the time of the accident, the world government had sent Sengoku to send troops to capture the disgraced Tesla and take him to Impel down. It's just that Sengoku also knows such a situation, but it doesn't mean that he has to wipe his ass about this old guy again and again. His previous son, Drago, and this time his grandson, Ace, must be remembered by Lao Lai, otherwise, let alone another real grandson, he will have a headache in the end. That kid is your grandson. Seeing Sengoku staring at him, Garp seemed to realize something. You don't want this old man to hunt him down, do you? Sengoku said quietly. In today's situation, Shichibukai is indispensable. The world government wants to appoint him to fill the vacancy that was defeated and become the new Shichibukai. So you should take responsibility and complete the tasks assigned by the superior. That brat, he didn't even listen to my words, and ran away to be a pirate secretly. How can I manage it? Garp scratched his forehead with a headache, and then showed inexplicable melancholy. And Shichibukai, Ace won't be. This sudden voice with other emotions caught Sengoku's attention, and he couldn't help but look at Garp, as if his old friend was hiding something from him. But he doesn't want to delve into anything too deeply. Everyone has their own thoughts that cannot be expressed in their hearts, and he is the same. What's more, although the old friend in front of me is usually reckless, he will never do the justice of betraying the words behind him, so Sengoku didn't think much at this time, but slapped the table again. Show an unquestionable expression. I don't care about that, anyway, I'll leave this matter to you. Didn't you complain that you just don't have time to visit your grandson? I'm giving you the opportunity and time. Besides, the next World Summit is getting closer, and this nomination has a high probability of grinding away Stella's influence. Sengoku looked at Garp and said seriously, since it's your grandson, after he didn't become a marine but became a pirate, becoming a Shichibukai is a chance for you to protect him. New World, Sphinx Sea Area. This is the former hometown of Whitebeard, and it is also the main activity area of the Whitebeard Pirates. On the deck of the Moby Dick, Whitebeard sat upright in his seat, looking at the newspapers spread out with both hands. There are more conspicuous scars on the body than before, and at the same time, many infusion tubes are inserted into the body to maintain the physical condition and the therapeutic effect. The whole person looks more energetic than before, showing a somewhat unspeakable aging color. However, although the lion is old, the prestige still exists as the embodiment of Whitebeard's situation at this time. Since the confrontation with Moda and the defeat from the throne of the world's strongest man, the Whitebeard pirates also experienced a period of after-the-fact shock. Perhaps it is because of the old man Whitebeard, not only that many members of the pirate group have begun to leave, but also the clarion call for someone to challenge Whitebeard. It's just that as the news that Whitebeard alone wiped out all the challengers continued to spread, the rumors that Whitebeard was old and had died down. Although it is not as powerful as the Imperial group at its peak, the Whitebeard pirates can still be called one of the strongest pirate groups. Everything looks like it hasn't changed. But Teach is clear that, compared to the strongest name in the past and the pride of being the #1 force at sea, the atmosphere of the pirates, especially the main ship Moby Dick, is becoming more and more intense. It seems that they realize that Dad is old, and the crew and captains do not take the initiative to show Whitebeard's prestige to the outside. Compared with the tit-for-tat and plundering resources that pirates should have, they want to stay at Dad's side more at this time. This kind of situation made Teach even more anxious and annoyed, because now the situation is not very active in plundering, and it is basically like staying in the Sphinx Sea every day for the elderly. How could he come into contact with dark fruit because of this? You must know that when he joins the Whitebeard pirates, besides the strength of his father, his power is also the most important point. Joining the Whitebeard pirates will give him the greatest chance of getting dark fruit. Although it doesn't matter if you can't find it, but the strong rise of Moda broke his state of mind to live a peaceful life. At the same time, he deeply hates Whitebeard, who is aging and sick, and he doesn't want to see the person he has always admired with this ending. If so, it's really not as good as letting yourself be the brilliance of shock fruit. Whitebeard was unaware of Teach's gradually deepening anti-bone thoughts. At this moment, he was looking at the newspaper in person, but he noticed the headlines on the title page, and couldn't help saying, "Another arrogant kid appeared on the Grand Line." Hearing that the old man spoke, his sons immediately followed up and said, he recently rejected Shichibukai's invitation, and he also escaped from the marine hero Garp, and the bounty was over 100 million Bailey. Marine Garp, that is the nightmare of the pirates, and even a powerful figure who once chased and beat the pirate group Roger. Shiki, who hadn't read today's newspaper, was also surprised. That's really an incredible newcomer. From this point of view, the other party should directly enter the new world. It seems that someone saw each other in the Fishman Island not long ago, and it should have been in New World for a while now, Marco said. How long has this guy been at sea, and he is so impatient at such a young age, what big things can he accomplish? Whitebeard sneered. He knew very well that Garp's strength could make this kid escape, and he wouldn't believe it if he hadn't released him into the sea. In this way, he looked deeply at Ace in the newspaper, and felt a little familiar for a while, and he felt an inexplicable sense of seeing an old opponent in his heart. Then something suddenly occurred to Whitebeard. Ace. Roger's favorite sword, if he remembers correctly, is also called Ace. It was just a sudden thought, but it was just such a thought. Whitebeard looked at Ace in the newspaper, thought more and more, then laughed loudly, and gave the order at the same time. Gu la la la, let people pay more attention to this brat. Hearing this, all the captains couldn't help but look at the old man. This was the first time in so many years that the old man expressed interest in a newcomer. After Whitebeard quickly sent someone to follow up and inquire about Ace's behavior. At this time, Ace is located in an island at the northern end of New World. Woohoo! The raging snowflakes fluttered to the sky and fell down. Bitter cold wind blew by one after another, making the pirates wearing padded jackets and overcoats outside a certain cave in Iceland still shivering from the cold, and couldn't help shrinking their necks and tightening the necklines of their clothes to resist the cold wind. Ruthless chaos. In the entrance of the cave, under the bonfire like a banquet, compared with the cold and frozen bones outside, it looks like a warm fairyland. Ace, isn't it? What's up with that kid Luffy now? Because of Ace's visit, the redhead who specially held a banquet, handed the wine glass to the other party with enthusiasm, and at the same time paid attention to the new era he expected. He still keeps saying that he is definitely the One Piece King, but at present, I should be the first to become the One Piece King. Ace recalled and said confidently at the same time. This is the energy that pirates of the new era should have. I am very optimistic about you and Luffy. The redhead replied with a hearty smile. Mr. Shanks has no other ideas, after all you are also 4 emperors, Ace said suddenly. In his opinion, compared with the so-called One Piece, the main thing to become One Piece is to break through the 4 emperors one by one. One Piece. Shanks showed some nostalgia, then shook his head and said, compared to this, I have something more I want to achieve. Is that so? Ace nodded and didn't say much. After all, he wanted to become One Piece, not for that position at all, but to find out the value of his birth in this world, and to find out who a man's past. Let's not talk about that, it will affect the atmosphere of the banquet. Anyway, when you have to challenge, maybe it's for Luffy's sake, I will show mercy. Shanks laughed, bringing joy back to the somewhat changed atmosphere. Ace greeted him again with a smile. It may take a while, I put you in the last position. Before that, I want to find the Air General, or Whitebeard, as my first challenge target after entering New World. After leaving the warm cave, the members of the Spades Pirates, who were wearing cotton jackets and overcoats for protection, immediately shivered from the cold. And perhaps because of the Mera Mera fruit, the bloodline in the body wears less clothes than his own crew after possessing the flame factor, but Ace, who looks like nothing has happened, shakes his hand and bids farewell to the entrance of the cave. Then let's take our leave. In short, thank you again for your life-saving kindness to my brother. It's nothing, and I wish you the best of luck in achieving your goals in New World. Shanks smiled at Kaido until he watched Kaido slowly disappear into the distant snow-capped mountains before returning to the camp with a happy expression on his face. Unexpectedly, Luffy also has a big brother. The office said that Luffy's age should be about the same age as my family's Usopp, and I don't know if they may become companions. If that's the case, it's really something to look forward to. A smile slowly emerged on Shanks' face. Laji Lu on the side was a little curious. He took a bite of the ham and said, "That's Luffy's big brother. The other party is just going to find Whitebeard or even the Air General." It seems that you are not in a hurry, Captain. Their red-haired group values friendship and loyalty. Since Luffy is their friend, they should take care of his big brother as the seniors of the pirates. And it seems that Luffy's big brother has only entered the Grand Line for about half a year, and it seems that he has not mastered Haki very well. Even Logia will suffer in New World, not to mention that the other party has to find 2 emperors who are still the top. It's impossible. The red-haired sighed. From his eyes, I can see that his purpose has a deep personal will, and the young people's ideas and adventures, we are not qualified to control. Immediately afterwards, the red hair showed a relaxed smile. Besides, only by suffering in New World can we go further on this road. Anyway, isn't Ace the fruit of Logia? It's not going to be treated too badly. We have already bid farewell to Ace and his group, and we are returning to the pirate ship. Is this really okay, Captain? I feel that the redheads are quite friendly, and we can ask them a lot about Haki. A crew member looked at Ace, who was walking at the front, and couldn't help asking. New World is different from the paradise they used to be in. Although relying on the strength of the crew and Ace's own strength, they still solved the battles encountered along the way, but it is no longer as devastating as before. Especially the appearance of Haki caused a lot of trouble for their invincible captain. There are many ways to become stronger. He has already saved my most important younger brother once and put an arm on him, so I don't want to cause trouble for him because of these reasons. With Ace's explanation, the crew could only continue to act according to the captain's willfulness. After all, Ace's personality is still relatively stubborn. From East Blue to Grand Line, members of the Spade Pirates have gotten used to it. Then Ace, who do you plan to challenge first? Masked Deus asked. He is the first ship doctor who followed Ace, and he knows Ace better about the adventures along the way. Compared with One Piece, getting the sea to recognize him and remember his strength may be a more real purpose. So, to come to the New World ruled by the 4 emperors, to challenge the throne, is to pick the 2 strongest people. Whitebeard. When talking about Whitebeard, Ace's smile narrowed, and his eyes were full of firmness, looking straight towards the endless sea. Even though he has fallen from the throne of the strongest pirate, the strength that once competed with that man, Ace wants to feel it. At this time, he brought to New World, besides visiting the benefactor for Luffy, what he wanted to do the most. What Ace didn't know was that the Whitebeard group also began to pay attention to each other, which seemed to be a two-way rush. In 1517, the Sea Circle calendar was filled with relevant information about Ace, the leader of the supernova of the new era, for almost a whole year without major events erupting among the major forces. At this moment, even Faikong Kingdom is not surprised. At the general city, Bakula, who came back from another treasure hunt, brought back an item related to Ace's life and deeds. Of course, this career story does not refer to the present and the past, but the future from the perspective of God in Moda's memory. Under the floating effect of its floating ability. In the center of the palm, there is a devil fruit floating. The snail has a spiral shape, looks like a pineapple, and has a lavender peel all over the body. The patterns and colors match, which looks a little weird. This fruit also has a name, and Moda can tell it without even comparing it with the devil fruit illustrated book. It will set off the beginning of the future summit war, and it is also the most desired fruit of a certain careerist. Logia dark fruit. Is this the darkness that can nullify the abilities of others? Yamato was quite surprised by this, and asked after a few more glances, Moda, who is this fruit for? The retainers beside him also looked at Moda when they heard the words. Compared with dark fruit's ability, distribution at this time is more of a problem. With Moda's emphasis on dark fruit and the particularity of this fruit's ability, it will not be distributed randomly like other fruits. But among the retainers of the main strength, except those who are unwilling, most of them are already capable persons. Holding the dark fruit, Moda came to the research base. After the use of the ability to capture fruit was replaced by munch fruit, the role of dark fruit dropped a level in Moda's heart. However, the power of dark fruit should not be underestimated, especially the destructive power like a black hole and the gravitational force that even light cannot escape. Therefore, this fruit will still allow Moda to send Bakura to obtain the designated item under the blessing of luck. However, as far as this fruit is concerned, it is indeed relatively saturated, and there is no retainer who can match it to eat. But since Bakura was asked to act, Moda was naturally prepared. Even before the dark fruit has been obtained, special experiments are already in progress at the research base. As seen, now the Big Mom Legion, which combines Kaido and Big Mom's physique, has begun to conduct landing tests at the huge experimental field in the base. Leaving out today's simplest functions of Thunder Beam Cannon and Battlesuit Change, at this moment, the Big Mom Legions are each corresponding to the ability factor under the blessing of the memory alloy in the body, or turning into an animal, or even some magical paramecia abilities. What's even more amazing is that it's not that these mechanical Legion crops can have biological factor bonuses. But at this moment, as if completely transformed from a robot into a real person, learning the corresponding knowledge, and even developing and thinking about the abilities in the body. It's like these mechanical carriers suddenly have a soul. It is indeed Hancock who promotes these changes, adding a more mysterious soul blessing to these already powerful mechanical carriers. At the same time, this is also a further transformation of the mechanical army after the development of Hancock's ability. In terms of purpose, through the endowment of the soul life body, let the machine achieve a step closer to the evolution of higher organisms in addition to the blood factor. In this way, wisdom is derived, so that the mechanical army has a terrifying learning ability, and with the implantation of a large amount of data, it can completely become a genius in various fields, combined with two-color hockey and unique ability development. Although I don't know how the Seraphim project in the original work allows the Seraphim to show powerful swordsmanship in martial arts, etc., that Moda is confident that the current soul-sublimated Big Mom Legion, whether it is physical strength or future evolution, is definitely beyond the Blazing Angels, angel level. Moreover, with Hancock's specially modified and sublimated soul, even if she is born with spiritual wisdom, she will not violate the wishes of Moda and others. Just like Charlotte Linland's Prometheus and Napoleon, and Hancock's Wendy, Salome and Anubis. The above is the current soulized Big Mom Legion. But this time Moda came to the research base, not for the purpose of using dark fruit in the Big Mom army, even though they are already stronger than many Imperial Court candidates. The gravitational force of black holes that can absorb everything, Moda wants to control it by himself. And what also needs to be used is the soul, which is also the reason why Hancock followed Master Moda, Lord Hancock. When Kong Pusi saw the visitor, he quickly stepped forward to say hello. Although he and Hancock are both retainers, they are of the same level of importance, but Hancock does not allow men other than Moda to call her by her name. Comps, who has experienced trouble once, has already adaptively added an adult title. Is the weapon ready? Moda nodded, then asked. Already prepared. After Comps finished speaking, he stretched out his hand to draw attention to the instrument cabinet beside it, on which there was a famous knife like Sakura. The difference is that this knife has not been dyed to the level of a black knife, and its fineness is a famous knife that shows its quality. This is a knife handle made by the swordsmith department according to the appearance of Autumn Sakura. After years of technical research, although there is still some distance from the forging of the supreme Big Kuaisao, the famous sword of the upper level of the Big Kuaisao can already be forged. The 21 work of the Great Quick Knife, without the knowledge of the world, has already been broken in the Faikon Kingdom and even the Wano-kuni period. The famous sword of Ruchu Sakura in front of me is also of this level. The difference is that, compared to famous knives forged from special materials, this knife is made of high-strength alloy with memory shape. It also shows that this knife has a bloodline factor that can be endowed with fruit abilities. And the most complex mechanical legion can be endowed with a soul. The same is true for this knife, just like Napoleon. It's just that compared to Napoleon, it can have a specific ability, which is the dark fruit ability that Moda intends to exert. Let's begin then. As Moda said, Hancock next to him immediately walked to the counter in a sensible manner. Under the action of his ability, a soul product emitting particle light immediately appeared in his palm. The unusual white light soul, the soul product in his hand, is blooming with bright golden light. Shen can also feel the fierce aura of the Overlord Haki from it. Immediately after that, under the control of Hancock, the soul immediately and consciously drilled into the weapon in the cabinet, following the bursts of energy fluctuations. As if the weapon had life, it suddenly came to life, flew straight up, and flew towards Moda in front of the guide on the soul. Moda grasped the weapon stagnant in front of him and stretched out his hand to hold it. It was no different from an ordinary sword, and it was not as special as his Autumn Sakura. But this weapon has a self-conscious soul personality. No less than 10 experiments have been carried out, and after fully ensuring the feasibility, Moda swiped his index finger, and the dark fruit, which completed the record of the embryo's appearance structure, immediately flew to the front of the weapon. Under Moda's order, the weapon directly exposed the eyes and mouth, and obediently swallowed the dark fruit in one gulp. Not long after, enough to swallow all the light, liquid-like black smoke began to radiate from the knife body. Endless darkness then spread from the handle of the knife, sweeping across Moda's body crazily. Filled with a strange and ominous atmosphere, like a blazing flame surging and tumbling in a constant gathering. Even this is not his own soul, but the soul of someone who has Conqueror's Haki plundered from overseas, after a long period of purification and cultivation by Hancock. Compared with the Zeus in the hands of Nami in the original book, the powerful soul like a white and pure soul is perfectly suitable for Moda's hands. Feeling the endowment of darkness emerging from the body through the soul, through the weapon, Moda flashed to the empty hillside in the base to experiment. After Moda inserted the weapon directly into the ground, endless darkness gushed out from the blade again frantically. In just an instant, the ground was completely eroded by darkness. Amidst the spreading black smoke, the land within a kilometer below Moda's feet was like a bottomless abyss. Dark cave. Immediately after activating the ability according to one's will, the billowing black smoke immediately came to life, turning into bursts of undulating black waves, and the abyss under the feet also turned into a black hole at this moment, turning everything around the feet that was in contact with the darkness into a black hole. Inhale it. Under the amazed eyes of scientists watching from afar. Trees, bushes, rocks. Everything covered by darkness slowly sinks into the black hole at a speed visible to the naked eye until it disappears completely. It wasn't until Moda's thought stopped that the black smoke of the thick fog receded, revealing a barren land. Then, Moda swung the sword in his hand. The darkness shot out with the slash wave, instantly turning into a black cloud in the air. Like night falling suddenly, darkness swept across the sky. The black smoke permeating the air was compressed by the black hole, and the crushed sawdust and gravel fell to the ground one after another, making a series of noises. This is the devouring power of the black hole, and even more powerful, there is the terrifying Mai. After experimenting with the dark cave, Moda manipulated it again, and the darkness climbed to the knife body, and then continued to rotate in the Uzumaki way. Guy Saw, who was watching the play, suddenly shook his body, and felt a very strong gravitational force exerted on him. The next moment, his body flew uncontrollably towards the tip of the knife raised in Moda's hand. I just felt that I was getting closer and closer to the tip of the knife, and even in the gas form, I had increased a lot of speed. Guy yelled out in horror. Dauda is too good, don't use me as an experiment. Amidst the shouts, the point of the knife just hit Guy's scientific costume, and the strong gravitational force stopped, leaving Guy, who seemed to be alive after a catastrophe, panting uncontrollably. Now, Guy, can you still use your ability? Moda asked. Didn't feel the restriction of armament Haki. Guy didn't know why Moda asked such a question, but the next moment he felt that his ability seemed to be blocked and he couldn't use it, so he nodded hastily. It wasn't until the prison-like darkness faded away that Gaisa felt the return of his ability again, and quickly turned into gas again, leaving Moda a distance away. This is the embodiment of Dark Fruit's powerful gravitational force. Darkness can absorb all matter. Even if the devil is controlled in this way, it is also plundered away. After the experiment, Moda is also convinced that the soul weapon in his hand will perfectly maintain an N. Although this ability can't bring much improvement to his current strength, just because of the diversity it contains and the nature of the ability's nullification, it is definitely useful. A powerful devil fruit is one that can bring more benefits than harm. What's more, the double pain, which is regarded as a disadvantage, is eaten by the soul with the sword in his hand, and has nothing to do with himself. Moda looked at the weapon in his hand with satisfaction. The latest memory form alloy composed of two monsters, paired with the purified and powerful king's soul, after taking dark fruit, can perfectly display the dark effect, and it is completely controlled by oneself. From now on, your name will be Yi. It is said that the knight in the hands is very human Kaido. Thank you Moda for the name. Yoruichi will definitely play the greatest role in your hands, make you satisfied. Moda nodded. I also hope that you can reward Lord Hancock a lot. Hearing this, Moda looked at Hancock, who covered his cheek shyly, but blinked his eyes excitedly, not hiding what he did specially. But this time, it can indeed be used as a reward to satisfy the other party. Taking Yi back into the scabbard also seemed to seal the soul and make it quiet. Moda took it as his second weapon and kept it by his side. Inheriting the talent of the Golden Lion template, he is also able to grasp the two swords with his hands. Moreover, the knight with the soul can develop and improve dark fruit like the Big Mom Legion. Reading this, Moda couldn't help but glance at Shu Sakura at his waist. Since Yi can adapt perfectly and achieve the ability to use the extra fruit, then of course Sakura can too. Even with the black knife and autumn water red Sakura's damage blessing, if it is paired with a powerful ability, what kind of earth-shaking changes will there be? So, Moda thought for a while, and the shock fruit of the day appeared in his mind. Moreover, Momo added Junjin, but there is an even more terrifying statement. Then Blackbeard, let him go in the direction in the original book, it's simple and easy. As a substitute for dark fruit, Moda came back to Guy Saw. Backquote Guy, according to the appearance of dark fruit, specially cultivated $1 for me. Understood, but Master Moda, it may take about half a year, Guy said Kaido. The immobilized appearance of the embryo, whether it is the construction of the structure or the implantation of SAD, all need to spend some effort. The time is fine, it's up to you to arrange it, Moda said. There are still a little more than 2 years before the day when the plot begins, which is completely enough. Moda wanted to know, after years of careful planning, what he ate was a smile fruit. I don't know how Teach felt at that time. I hope that if the probability is not low, the other party will not be too unlucky. Know if it is really the case, just thinking about that kind of picture, Moda wants to come and see it in person. Near the end of the Sea Circle calendar 1517. New World, a pirate ship shaped like a huge white whale, is speeding across the sea. Fluttering in the wind, the white crescent-like skull flag. All symbolize that the owner of this ship is the Whitebeard, in the corner of the four emperors, who has the ability to destroy the world. In today's stable and confrontational environment, the Moby Dick suddenly sailed out of the waters of the Sphinx because of the recent uproar at sea. The supernova leader of the era, Fire Fist Ace, entered the New World, and clashed with a pirate under Whitebeard. After defeating the opponent, he not only did not leave, but instead yelled at Whitebeard in the strongest man in the world. Whitebeard challenges. The news spread and received widespread attention. All kinds of entertainers came out together, all of whom felt ridiculous and regretted Ace's arrogance. Even if it is the supernova leader of the pirates in the new era, it cannot be the opponent of today's day. At this time, on the Moby Dick, except for the calm Whitebeard, all the pirates were filled with righteous indignation, clamoring for them to come forward and teach that arrogant brat personally. Even after stepping down from the strongest throne, his physical condition is no longer what it used to be, but Dad still showed the world that he still has the ability to destroy the world. If the Air General, or even the four emperors challenged them, they might not say much. But you are just a rookie, how dare you take the initiative to provoke the Whitebeard pirates, and even challenge their respected old man. What's more, although they don't take the initiative to show the power of the Whitebeard regiment now, it doesn't mean they will turn a blind eye to this provocative way. Father, why don't I teach the other party a lesson? Marco said with his hands on his hips. He knew that his father was very concerned about this newcomer, but he didn't expect that the other party would take the initiative to come to him at this time. Perhaps it was also seen that Whitebeard wanted to accept the other party as his son, and of course Marco stood up without hesitation. There are quite a few cases of this kind of newcomer who thinks that taking Logia will run amok from the Grand Line to the New World. It happens that before boarding the ship, he can be a senior and kill the opponent's arrogance. I also want to teach that ignorant brat a good lesson and let him accept the New World's hockey baptism. Chao Zi followed closely. Although Whitebeard is no longer the strongest man in the world, in the hearts of the first batch of crew members, this position has never changed. And the other party is just a new star who has just entered the New World, and he wants to challenge the strongest man in their minds. As the captain of the team, it is difficult to swallow this breath. Gu la la la. I understand what you're thinking. Whitebeard smiled, and then continued. But this time, I'm going to meet this brat in person. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding sons were shocked. Father, do you want to go out yourself? With Whitebeard's status, except for the Air Admiral, other signs of the Emperor may not necessarily allow him to appear in person. Whitebeard's smile remained unchanged, still full of pride. Since the other party wants to challenge me, let me go and meet him. This arrogant brat is of a certain standard. Of course, after confirming the conjecture in his heart, Whitebeard probably figured out why this brat would take the initiative to find the reason for himself. He wanted to see what the guy's son was up to. I also want to turn the son of that family into my own son. The order from the captain made the Moby Dick, which had been moored on the coast of the Sphinx for several months, head towards the island where the Spade pirates of the New World were located. There is no specially concealed whereabouts. With the information of most forces mixed in today, it has attracted the attention of many forces for a while. Challenge Whitebeard first. The red hair looked at the information in the newspaper, but there was no expression of worry on his face. As for Whitebeard's character, he is quite familiar with it. As long as it is not a vicious incident that kills the opponent's son, it is not difficult to survive. On the way back to East Blue, Garp, who was given a vacation because of a mission failure, read the information in the newspaper, and for a moment showed a somewhat melancholy look under the dog's head. At the moment, Moda, who is far away in the Flying Kingdom, listens to Robin's latest news with a smile. It was said to be a challenge, but it turned out to be someone else's son. Roger directly took away Whitebeard's former second team captain Kozuki Odin. More than 20 years later, they directly took away your own son, and even respected Whitebeard even more than his biological father Roger in the end. What a nonsense development. Just thinking about it makes Moda feel different from other people in the world. However, the development of Dogblood is a little bit Dogblood, but as long as you follow your own plan, that is the most important thing. In Moda's view, the greatest value of Ace now is the blood in his body after all. As the son of One Piece Roger, once Ace's identity is exposed, then in order to maintain justice, and to prove the correctness of the execution of One Piece King Roger at the cost of triggering the Great Pirate Era, Ace must be obliterated at all costs. In other words, he is a real existence like a powder keg, ready to trigger a war that can change the times at any time. And became the son of the Whitebeard pirates, which continued to trigger the Summit War in the original book. Not only can he affect the Marine of the government's Combat Force Agency, but he can also take advantage of it to take away the shock fruit. Of course, the more important point is to let Whitebeard shout out the words, One Piece is real, so as to re-turmoil the sea due to the effect of conscription, and promote the real chaos and riots 2 years later. See Circle Calendar 1518. The penultimate year from the beginning of the plot. Everything is still going on without major changes. After a lapse of 4 years, the World Summit will be held again. In the world government, which once had more than 200 member countries, it is now slowly reduced to only 180 or so. It's not just because of the fact that in the underground world, arms have begun to travel in various countries. In addition, in these 4 years, a total of no less than 10 revolutionary armies of the joining countries were liberated. The leader, Drago, is the world's most vicious criminal. Since the last time he was named, the world government has set up a special team to solve this problem. There is a record. The Shemale King Ivankov of the Revolutionary Army cadres and some personnel were arrested and brought into Imperdon, allowing the Revolutionary Army to lurk temporarily. But everyone knows that as long as the leader Drago is still around, the danger to the revolutionaries will not decrease. As a member country, it is natural to ask for protection from the world government as it bears a huge amount of heavenly gold. Now, although the situation in the 4 seas in the first half is slowly under control under conscription, the Red Hair, Zephyr in recent years, and Ace, which was very popular last year, obviously have not yet shown their momentum to suppress pirates. And under such circumstances, a revolutionary army that is even more dangerous to their power came out, which also ushered in the main statement of the leaders of the alliance countries at this meeting. The high-level government officials who presided over the meeting have long been familiar with the strangeness. Everyone understands that although these are indeed unstable factors, the most important thing is that these kings want to save money. It can be said that at the World Summit every 4 years, there are always some high-ranking kings who are thinking about reducing the amount of gold offered in the sky. For himself, he has for the country, but it is rare to reach a consensus goal from this group of old and cunning high-level government officials. Because, the conclusion of a certain meeting needs to be confirmed by the vote of the entire country, and the result of the votes must be more than half at the same time. The reason why it is rarely achieved is of course not that every country is rich enough and does not value money, but that the world government can come up with enough arguments every 4 years. The last time it was true that conscription played a big role, and Marine was also at its peak. But this time, when it was clearly not up to the standard, Many countries had discussed it in private, and jointly expressed their dissatisfaction with it. One may not dare to say anything, but there are a group of kings around him who are like this, so naturally they have the confidence to dare to express their dissatisfaction to the world government. After the discussion, the high-level government officials who stood at the center of the round table also bent down and replied, "We understand the opinions of King Reyes and King Galdana. However, before the vote on this topic, allow us to show you the latest weapons that the government is developing." As soon as the words fell, someone next to him immediately released the video phone bug, forming an impact in the middle facing the surroundings, so that all the kings could see the content. It was a test site full of mountains and rocks, and it was not difficult to see from the surrounding signs that it was developed by a special scientific force of the world government. Immediately afterwards, under the curious eyes of the kings, a huge humanoid machine made of countless steel components appeared in the picture. The commentary also appropriately stated from the top of the government, "This is the latest weapon developed by Dr. Vegapunk, tentatively named the Pacifist. Its cost is extremely expensive, comparable to a Marine's highest-level battleship, but relatively, it is made of expensive alloys, has a body hardness far exceeding that of steel, and also has powerful destructive power. It has our latest research and development laser technology." Under the explanation, the picture also correspondingly presents various forms of intensity of the pacifists, especially the laser cannon that directly blasted the mountains into powder with one blow, which really shocked many kings. More importantly, it has the awareness of self-judging the enemy and capturing the opponent, as well as the use of combat skills. At present, this technology is in the stage of strengthening research and development and expanding. It will be officially used to deal with the sea in less than 2 years. Thieves, and even in the future, will also be applied to national security. Mighty kings must have seen it, and this technology will be developed and gradually strengthened, so that it can easily defeat pirates at your unit level. As if they understood that this technology had captured the minds of these kings, the high-level staff continued, "Of course, the progress of its research and development has a lot to do with Tiantianjin. Presumably all kings know that scientific research requires money, not to mention it as still this kind of cross-age technology. Research and development may still be carried out, but after that, we may have countries that will not use this technology, and of course there are countries that have exposed this technology in advance." As soon as this remark came out, the kings who proposed to reduce the gold in the sky became a little restless. As a king, some people may be able to see further. Compared with the use of this technology in catching pirates, it is more important to say that it may be used in one's own country. With a powerful system and unparalleled destructive power, it can be said that there is no force that is not envious of it. Not only can national security be improved, but the most important thing is that this technology can become another point of balance between countries. If the neighboring country has pacifists and you don't, this means that the status is directly and forcibly lowered by a threshold or even more, which is likely to lead to various troublesome issues of trade and even war. Many plunders between countries are the unspoken rules of the world government. As a result, the topic of gold in the sky remained unchanged was once again claimed by the king who previously initiated the reduction of the topic, and was recognized by most of the kings. The number of votes directly exceeded more than 80%. And this has also suffered some franchise countries that have become increasingly impoverished because of the money in the sky. Although it can be said that the more than 170 member countries of the world government can be regarded as the best countries in the world today, except for pirate management. But that doesn't mean that all of them are equally prosperous. There are also many poor kings with bad borders, and countries where troubles are happening. Just like Alabasta, where the national situation has become more serious in the world this year. In addition to the lack of rain in the capital all year round, and the revelation of the king's private use of dancing powder, the country's civil war is getting worse day by day. With the country's environment in jeopardy, raising money from the sky has directly become a troublesome issue for this superpower. See Circle Calendar in 1518, apart from the accident of Alabasta and the World Summit, there was another incident that was not small. The Spade pirate ship, which almost dominated Sea Circle Calendar 1517 for a whole year, failed after challenging Whitebeard. Its crew, together with the super rookie Firefist Ace, also joined the Whitebeard pirates. And in the middle of this year, he continued the excellent performance of the super rookie, and soon replaced Whitebeard, who had been vacant for a long time, as the captain of the second team. Especially as the captain of the battle team in the second team, it is implicitly promoted to the signature image of the Whitebeard pirates like Marco and JOZ. For a time, the reputation of Firefist Ace also became louder in New World. In the name of the strongest newcomer, it has brought the regionality of New World. For this reason, the young retainers of Moda felt extremely dissatisfied and clamored to find each other to compete with each other. Of course, the little guys who wanted to compete with Ace were stopped by Robin. There will be opportunities in the future. At present, it is natural to let the development go in the direction preset by Moda, and there is no need for extra complications. Then, time flies, spring goes and autumn comes. A year and a half passed quietly. The C-circle calendar comes to 1519. All things are changing little by little with the passage of time. Whether it is a person's lifespan, appearance, or the so-called power and wealth, it is difficult to escape this concept. Only the three concepts of inherited will, people's dream, and waves of the times are still continuing. Whether it is a child of destiny who is waiting for the last half year in a village in East Blue, or an ambitious man who is buried waiting on the Whitebeard ship. New World. Although the zone ruled by the four emperors has been completely formed here, as the Grand Line must go, especially due to the expanded influence of Marine, many pirates are still pouring in every day. Except for the deadly battle between the four emperors, in every sea area of New World, with the infusion of new blood, there are still constant fights. Today, nature is no exception. Off the coast of the Whitebeard Regiment territory, the fire illuminated the dark sea under the dark clouds, and a ship was completely enveloped by the flames, looking precarious and about to sink at any moment. Under the bombardment of artillery fire, the ship was completely ignited. Above the surface of the sea, there are debris of shipboards everywhere. On the ship where the flames spread, the battle has come to an end. Clang, there was a crisp chime, and the man holding the sword in both hands burst back under the force of the surging force, and flew directly to the burning cabin with a backblow. I don't know if it was because of the high temperature surrounded by layers of flames, or because of the frightened strength of the man in the chef's uniform in front of him. Among the broken wood that flew upside down, the man stood up sweating profusely with his sword. Hateful. Looking at the tragic situation around, the crew members who have fallen one after another, and the damaged ship, the man who is the captain said hoarsely unwillingly, "You bastards, ruined all of our dreams." Roaring so furiously, the man firmly held the long sword in his hand with both hands and slashed at the enemy. Boring dreams. If you want to blame you, you take the initiative to find trouble with the Whitebeard pirates. Hearing this, the captain of Whitebeard's 4th Division, Thatch, still had a calm expression on his face, and his arm holding the weapon was covered with blue veins caused by superimposed strength. With strength and sword intent, he slammed down heavily on the attacking figure. Puff. The opponent's long sword shattered instantly when it collided. Like a broken doll, the captain was cut off by Sachi's sword. Blood flew straight down, and two separated bodies lay powerless on the deck. After shaking off the blood on the blade, retract it into the scabbard. Shiki didn't look at the other party again, and left directly. Not long after, in the distance, a figure wrapped in flames flew directly from the other side not far away. Sage. Looking at Ace, who was beckoning to come, the chilling expression on Sachi's face subsided, and a smile appeared immediately. "Oh, Ace, I have already solved everything here." "Aw. What a pity." Ace looked disappointed. "We have been together for more than a year." In terms of Ace's personality, as a good friend, Sachi is no stranger to him. He immediately smiled helplessly. "Hey, what are you disappointed about? Shouldn't you be celebrating for me? You're done with it. Isn't my trip here to support you in vain?" "You bastard." Thatch scolded with a smile. "I'll share some of the spoils with you." "I don't need those." Ace waved his hand, not paying much attention to this, and at the same time looking at the dead pirates. "I don't know where they have the guts to provoke us." At first glance, these newcomers had just arrived in the first half, and even Hockey didn't know it. The subordinates led by Shiki won the victory easily, and not even a single one was injured. "I got some news." Shiki also looked at the battlefield that had ended. "It is said that they hijacked the goods of a certain dark force halfway, and then ran to our site to hide it for an excuse. It's just that it's stupid to hide as soon as possible, and dare to make trouble on the islands in our territory." The goods of a certain dark force. Ace couldn't help but said, "Aren't these guys pirates worth more than 300 million Baileys? Are they still afraid of those underground rats?" Ace also has some understanding of the dark forces, but he has a contemptuous and disdainful attitude towards these existences. Ordinary dark forces are certainly not afraid, but the problem is that when it comes to the Flying Kingdom, the meaning is different, Sax said. "It has something to do with the Flying Kingdom." Ace was also surprised. Although he once had the intention of challenging the opponent, since he became Whitebeard's son, this idea has faded away. Not only to avoid trouble for his new family members, but also because from the terrifying strength of his father, he associates the deeper and bottomless power of Air General Moda. It should be, and judging from this time, it is not far from the famous Flame Festival period. But that has nothing to do with us, these guys are still 8 poles away from the Flying Kingdom. Sack said with a smile, so these are still cheaper than our Whitebeard pirates. Ace rubbed his palms when he heard the words. I heard that every year at the Flame Festival, the things these guys send are very rich, let me see what good things there are. Don't worry, Ace. Sage said with a smile, of course good things should be shared with everyone, we are a big family. Soon, all the collections in the treasure house on this ship were moved to the ship under Sachi, and then the 4th team and the 2nd team sailed back to the Whitebeard main ship. Back on the Moby Dick, it was already sunset time. Under the gradual red light, Shiki ordered his men to carry the spoils to the main ship. Although the old man allowed them to manage the spoils independently, most of the captains who have been living on the Moby Dick as the main team are still willing to put it on the main ship, and truly become a big family. So, after Ace shouted out the goods related to the Flame Festival, many captain pirates came to after hearing the news, and all looked at the various trophies. Treasure pearls are the most common thing, and there are also many accessories made of overseas specialties. But the most important thing is a wooden box that Thatch is holding at this time. On the way of carrying, Shiki, who had already checked first, was deliberately showing everyone. There is something extraordinary inside, guess what it is? As soon as this remark was said, it attracted other captains. Gem? Famous knife? Stupid, this box is so small, how can it fit weapons like knives? Could it be devil fruit? Until he heard the correct answer, Shiki didn't continue to show off, but opened it with his fingers. Inside the wooden box is a fruit that looks like a pineapple, but has a purple peel and a snail-like spiral pattern.